Have you ever looked at a watch and felt something? Not just the way it looks, but what it means. A Rolex is more than a watch. It is a feeling, a story. But how did it all begin? Let me take you back over 100 years ago to the dreams of a young man named Hans Wilsdorf. Hans was born in 1881 in Bavaria, which is now part of Germany. When he was just 12 years old, he faced something very painful. He lost both of his parents. He was sent to live with relatives and he grew up quickly. Life was not easy, but Hans had something special. He was curious, he loved details, and he was fascinated by one small thing, time. As a young man, he began working for a watch company in Switzerland. There, he learned about the mechanics of watches, how they tick, how they move, how they're made, and he saw something others didn't see. At the time, pocket watches were common. Wrist watches were seen as jewelry for women, not serious tools for men. But Hans, he had a different vision. He believed that one day wristwatches would be everywhere, and he didn't just want to make any wristwatch. He wanted to make the best. So in 1905, at just 24 years old, Hans moved to London. He started a company with his brother-in-law, Alfred Davis. They called it Wilsdorf and Davis. They didn't make watches themselves yet. They imported Swiss movements and placed them in watch cases. But Hans was thinking ahead. He wanted his own brand, a name that people would remember. He wanted a name that was short, easy to say, and looked good on a watch face. He tried hundreds of names, but nothing felt right. Until one morning, while riding a horse-drawn carriage, he said a word out loud, Rolex. He said it like the ticking of a watch, clean, precise, memorable. And that was it. Rolex was born. But having a name is not enough. Hans had a mission. He wanted to make wristwatches that were not just elegant, but also strong, reliable, and precise. At the same time, people didn't trust wristwatches. They thought they were fragile. They thought they were not accurate. Hans wanted to change that. So, he focused on quality. Every piece of a Rolex had to be tested. It had to survive heat, cold, dust, water, pressure. It had to keep perfect time, day after day, year after year. In 1910, something amazing happened. A Rolex watch became the first wristwatch in the world to receive a Swiss certificate of chronometric precision, a major award for accuracy. 4 years later, it received a similar award in Britain. This was unheard of. People started to look at wristwatches differently. They started to believe in Rolex. But Hans didn't stop there. In 1926, Rolex created something new, the Oyster, the world's first waterproof watch. To prove it worked, they did something bold. A young British swimmer named Mercedes Gleitze swam across the English Channel wearing a Rolex Oyster on her wrist. The swim took over 10 hours. The watch came out working perfectly. The world was shocked. Water, no problem. Pressure, no problem. This watch was tough and beautiful. To promote the watch, Rolex put it in a store window inside a tank of water. People stopped and stared. A watch underwater, still ticking. It was revolutionary. From that moment, Rolex was not just a brand, it was a legend. Over the years, Rolex watches went on to do incredible things. In 1933, Rolex watches flew over Mount Everest. In 1960, a Rolex watch went to the bottom of the ocean, the Mariana Trench, strapped to a deep-sea submersible. The pressure was enormous, but the Rolex, it survived. Rolex watches were worn by pilots, explorers, divers, and race car drivers. They were symbols of excellence and achievement. They were not flashy, they were timeless. But through all the time, Hans Wilsdorf never lost his original purpose. He wanted Rolex to stand for something bigger. In 1944, when his wife passed away, he created the Hans Wilsdorf Foundation. He left all his shares of Rolex to the foundation. Even today, Rolex is not owned by a private family or company. It's owned by the foundation. This means the profits are not just for making money, they support charities, education, science, and the arts. Hans didn't just build a watch company, he built a legacy. So, what can we learn from the story of Rolex? We learn that innovation doesn't always come from loud voices. Sometimes it comes from quiet, careful observation. We learn that when you believe in something, even if no one else does, you can change the world. Hans Wilsdorf believed in wristwatches before anyone else did. He didn't copy others, he led. And he led with purpose, quality, and integrity. Rolex is more than metal and glass. It's a story, a promise, a symbol of what happens when you dare to dream big and deliver even bigger. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this story about Hans Wilsdorf and the birth of Rolex. If you're learning English, try to remember a few new words from today. Precision, being very exact or accurate. Legacy, something meaningful left behind. Revolutionary, something that changes everything. Foundation, an organization that gives money to help others. Achievement, something great you succeeded in doing. Practice using them this week in your own speaking or writing. Until next time, keep learning, keep dreaming, and always value your time.